Developing right now on Morning News Now, the votes are in for several key primary elections. In Alaska, the stage is set for a Senate showdown that could shift the balance of power in Washington. And a stunning upset in Florida's Senate race. NBC News projecting Democratic socialist Angie Nixon has defeated Alex Vindman, advancing to the general election in November.
The hard-working, everyday people of Florida sent a shockwave to the Washington, D.C. establishment. They better get ready. Because they ain't seen nothing yet.
Plus, 3 GOP candidates backed by President Trump losing their primaries last night, raising questions about the president's influence ahead of the November midterms. And breaking overnight, President Trump pausing those 50% tariffs on Canadian goods. We'll have an update. Also this morning, a split screen of extreme weather from coast to coast, from sweltering heat on track to set records to another round of summer storms. We're tracking the conditions, the dangers, and what you can expect when you head out the door. Plus, heartbreaking new details about the death of actress Hayden Panettiere, her estranged mother speaking out about her daughter and their relationship. We'll have the latest. And friends for life. Literally, new research shows some of our most meaningful friendships could improve not just your mental health, but your physical health too. We'll look at that connection in our weekly check. Good morning. Good to have you with us. I'm Joe Fryer. Savannah is on assignment. We're going to begin with the latest primary election results, giving us a clearer snapshot of the upcoming midterms. In Alaska, what should be a hotly contested Senate race is now taking shape. Republican Senator Dan Sullivan did survive the primary and a rather confusing ballot. He'll now face Democrat Mary Peltola in a ranked choice Senate race. Democrats view it as a real pickup opportunity. In Florida, Trump-backed Byron Donalds won the Republican nomination for governor. He'll now face Democrat David Jolly in November. But a big surprise in the Democratic Senate primary there, Democratic socialist state lawmaker Angie Nixon pulling off an upset, defeating former National Security Council aide Alex Vindman, who was the whistleblower in President Trump's first impeachment. She'll now take on Republican Senator Ashley Moody in November. And another incumbent casualty in Florida, Republican Congressman Corey Mills lost his primary. He is facing a House Ethics Committee probe into allegations of sexual misconduct and campaign finance violations, as well as a DOJ investigation into his finances. He has denied any wrongdoing. We have a team of reporters following this for us. From Washington, NBC News reporter Megan Brand is helping us cover a busy night in politics. Let's start with Tracy Wilkins on Capitol Hill. Tracy, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. A lot of moving parts. We're going to start in Florida, where Democratic incumbents are testing newly drawn congressional maps carved out by the GOP. Meanwhile, on the other side of the country, some Republicans in Alaska are calling foul on one of their own candidates with a familiar name. Tuesday's primaries set the stage as the GOP fights to hold its majority in the House and Senate, and Democrats hope to flip seats in November. In the race for U.S. Senate in Florida, Democratic Socialist of America member Angie Nixon defeated prominent Democratic Lieutenant Colonel Alex Vindman. Another win for the growing progressive wing of the Democratic Party.
We have proved that everyday people are more powerful than the corporations and billionaires.
Nixon will face Trump-backed incumbent Ashley Moody in the general election.
We need people to go to Washington that will stand up for America.
Also in Florida, Representative Byron Donalds, supported by President Donald Trump, is projected to win the Republican nomination in Florida's gubernatorial race. He's represented Florida in Congress since 2021, and after a contentious primary, he's calling for unity in the party.
Tonight, the primary is over. Tonight, we put aside our differences.
Donalds is expected to face projected Democratic winner David Jolly in November. Jolly, a former Republican congressman, left the GOP during President Trump's first term and focused his campaign on both Democrats and independents with an emphasis on affordability.
Your life is more expensive because politicians like Byron Donalds are in bed with special interests.
On the other side of the country in Alaska, Democrats are hoping to gain a Senate seat. Democrat Mary Peltola will face longtime GOP incumbent Dan Sullivan. But with the state's top 4 primary candidates heading to the general, There could be another Dan Sullivan running as a Republican in that race as well. A former teacher, Dan J. Sullivan.
This fake Dan Sullivan guy is not in it to win it.
Results are still being counted, but so far, the second Dan Sullivan has won less than 3% of the vote. He told the New York Times he did not enter the race to confuse voters. In Washington, I'm Tracy Wilkins. Joe, back to you.
All right, Tracy, thank you. For more, let's bring in NBC News political reporter Megan Brand. Megan, we're still awaiting the results of that special election runoff in California. The winner's going to finish off former Congressman Eric Swalwell's term. Of course, he resigned after those sexual assault and misconduct allegations that he denies. Where does that race stand?
Hey, Joe, good morning. So it's a pretty tight race as it stands right now. It has not yet been called. This is a race between State Senator Aisha Wahab and Melissa Hernandez, who's a board member of the Bay Area Public Transit Authority. So take a look on your screen where it stands right now. Wahab at 51%, Hernandez at 49%. Still a pretty big chunk of the vote that we're waiting to come in. Right now, there's about 62% of the expected vote coming in. And so we might not know who the projected winner is for a little bit here. But even, Joe, once we hear who the projected winner is right now, we can really expect these two candidates to almost probably immediately go back to campaigning. And that's because both of them are running again this November, this time for a full term, because right now they're running just to fill the rest of former Congressman Swalwell's term, Joe.
Lots of elections going on right there. Let's go to South Carolina. Senator Darlene Graham and Congressman Ralph Norman squared off in that Senate primary debate last night. The two are going head to head in that special Republican primary runoff that's next week to replace Darlene's brother, the late Senator Lindsey Graham, on the ballot this fall. What was the big takeaway from that debate?
One of the big takeaways here was how Senator Darlene Graham handled questions about foreign policy and national security. So, for example, there was one moment where she was asked whether she believed that Taiwan and the South China Sea were part of U.S. national security concerns. And she had responded to that, saying that she was not that informed on national security. Take a listen to what else she had to say, and then we'll hear a little bit from both candidates about how they framed the dynamics of the race.
Me, I'm not a polished politician up here. National security is not my thing, not my area of expertise, but I do support the military.
The Main Street Washington is with her. They're not with me, nor do I want them. I've never been subservient to anything in Washington. Washington is broken.
Fact is, I've done more in 20 days than you have done in 20 years.
We heard there Congressman Norman previously trying to frame this race as Senator Graham being more so of the Washington establishment candidate. Meanwhile, Senator Graham is trying to frame this as saying that even though she hasn't been in office that long, just a couple of weeks right now, she's making the case that she still in that short period of time has been an effective senator, Joe.
We'll be talking more about that one next week. We also have some breaking news overnight. President Trump did slam the brakes on those 50% tariffs that were set to hit Canada at midnight. What's he saying about that?
Yeah, Joe, this was the latest instance of President Trump walking up to the line of putting in new tariffs and then walking back after saying that the two countries had come to a deal. And so he had announced that this was paused for 3 days in a Truth Social post where he had said that it was based on the fact that Canada and the USA, subject to the finalization of documents, have a deal. Now, there are a couple of question marks here. We don't know exactly what this deal entails. He did reference in that post potentially reviving the Keystone XL pipeline. And then we heard a little bit more about what the deal could potentially include in a separate social media post, this time from the U.S. Trade Representative, who had said that the deal will include comprehensive market access for all American goods, economic security commitments, digital trade alignment, and many important provisions. But, Joe, we are still waiting to hear what exactly this deal includes and waiting to see some text on that.
All right, Megan, thank you so much. Appreciate it. ABC and its parent company Disney are taking on the Trump administration in court over what it calls an existential threat to its network. Yesterday, the Walt Disney Company sued the Federal Communications Commission over threats to its broadcast licenses. The House of Mouse is calling the move an attack on free speech by the Trump administration. Disney owns and operates 8 TV stations in key markets across the U.S. In late April, the FCC, which is chaired by Trump appointee Brendan Carr, ordered that all 8 stations file their broadcast renewal requests years ahead of schedule. They were not up for renewal until 2028 at the earliest. The move from the FCC came after President Trump posted complaints about ABC's late-night TV host Jimmy Kimmel on social media. In September of last year, ABC briefly pulled Kimmel off the air amid pressure from the agency and from the president. NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos joins us now to dive a little deeper into this case. Danny, good morning. So we know Disney's accusing the FCC of retaliating against ABC over its programming. This lawsuit cites several of President Trump's social media posts, including one in which he was complaining about late-night hosts, saying they're, quote, almost all 100% negative. The suit states that, quote, acting through the FCC, the administration has waged a retaliatory campaign against ABC for a single reason: it disapproves of what ABC broadcasts. So under the First Amendment, Danny, how strong is Disney's case here?
Pretty strong, especially because the Supreme Court recently took up this exact same issue in its NRA case. And here's really the dividing line. The president can criticize companies, but he can't use his executive power to punish them, to retaliate against them. So this may be a pretty valid claim right out of the gate for these plaintiffs.
So, Danny, what's the implied threat here from the FCC in just asking for these early license renewals in your mind?
Well, because it's so much more than just asking them. It's putting a huge burden on them at an early stage, as you pointed out earlier, long before, years before they even need to. And then the actual process itself will take a very long time. So this is a way of exerting executive power, at least in the plaintiff's eyes, to make a company do more work than it ordinarily would, which they say is flat out retaliation, that they're being targeted. And again, under recent Supreme Court precedent, they do have a point.
Let's talk about what this lawsuit could mean for media beyond ABC, beyond Disney, because I think all networks are paying close attention to this. Could the outcome of it change just how much leverage the federal government has over broadcasters and even the content that they put on the air?
Yes, but what's so interesting is that we still operate under what many may see today as an antiquated system, but broadcast is the one area where the government gives licenses. Not so when you look at your news online, not so for newspapers, but broadcast companies need licenses. So in one sense, it is a bellwether for those broadcast companies. But again, given the modern state of media, there are many companies that inform, that put out news that may not be subject to the same kind of license penalties. But of course, it's hugely important to decide in real time a case whether the government, whether the president and the executive branch can use their dislike or their dislike of someone's speech, a company's speech, to retaliate against them using agency power and just binding them up in red tape. Because forcing people to do extra paperwork is a form of retaliation. All of us have filled out paperwork with the government. It's no fun. That we can understand, even if it is a giant company like Disney. As individuals, we get it.
Danny Savalos, good to have you with us as always. Thank you so much. New questions are arising over the circumstances of actress Hayden Panettiere's final moments. NBC News obtained an incident report that describes a bag of medication on the scene. At this point, authorities do not suspect foul play. Now Panettiere's mother is speaking out for the first time since her daughter's death. In an exclusive interview with NBC News, she detailed the strained relationship between her and her daughter, as well as ongoing concerns about Panettiere's ex-boyfriend. NBC News correspondent Steve Patterson has those details.
New details in the death of actress Hayden Panettiere. An incident report obtained by NBC News revealing her on-again, off-again boyfriend Brian Hickerson and his brother were both at the South Carolina apartment when police arrived. According to the report, which is heavily redacted, Hickerson's brother was very emotional as paramedics worked on Panettiere, while Hickerson did not become emotional until after she was pronounced dead. The officer adding Hickerson showed him a bag of medication he says she was on. Meanwhile, the actress's mother speaking exclusively by phone with NBC News, saying Hickerson was someone, quote, we've been trying to get rid of for quite some time. Adding the last time she spoke with her daughter was in October. Panettiere opened up about the status of their relationship back in May.
Do you still not connect or talk today?
At the moment, no, there is not a relationship between her and I.
The spotlight now on Panettiere and Brian Hickerson's time together. In her memoir, the 36-year-old described their relationship as increasingly abusive starting in 2018. The actress writing that in one incident, her face was so badly beaten she didn't leave the house for weeks. Panettiere ultimately sought a restraining order, but the outcome of that request is unclear. Hickerson will later plead no contest to 2 domestic violence charges in 2021 and was sentenced to 4 years probation. Hickerson has not responded to NBC News' request for comment. In a recent podcast, Panettiere read from a journal entry.
I realized that I was more afraid of being alone than being abused. I had to take accountability for enabling unforgivable behavior.
And the tributes remembering the star continue, including her former partner Vladimir Klitschko, father of their daughter Kaya, writing that for Kaya, he will speak of her mother with respect and make sure she remembers the person she was.
Steve Patterson, NBC News.
Just when you thought the summer weather might be winding down, shaping up to be another day of sweltering heat across the South. This morning, more than 65 million are under renewed heat threats, stretching from Florida all the way to Nevada. Temperatures are soaring into the triple digits in some areas, and the 1-2 punch of heat and humidity is taking a toll on states like Georgia and Florida, where it feels like 110 degrees or more. Well, in the Midwest, the washout expected to continue today. Several states are bracing for the latest round of severe storms that could once again bring dangerous conditions to millions. NBC News correspondent Priscilla Thompson joined us now live from the heart of Texas with more on the heat. I see football behind you, Priscilla, so I know you'll set the stage for us here, but school back in session for lots of kids already down south. How are schools, how are businesses responding to the heat? What are they doing to keep cool? I'm guessing early practice is going to be part of that.
Exactly, Joe, and I'll tell you why. Right now it is already 80 degrees here and the sun has not even come up and it is only going to get hotter. It is why you have the football team here at Katy High School already out on the field, getting that workout in before the sun comes out. Part of some of the changes that are happening here in Texas, they are also doing more frequent water breaks and they are measuring the heat differently now, not just looking at temperature and humidity, but also things like direct sunlight, cloud cover, and wind when deciding whether or not it is safe for student athletes to practice. And you have these sorts of measures happening across the South. In Louisiana, there are some schools that are keeping students inside for recess in the gym because of these high temperatures. And in Decatur, Georgia, there was one school that their HVAC system was actually overwhelmed because of how hot it is, and they had to send students back to virtual learning. Joe?
When students are doing 6 a.m. practice, you know the heat's bad if they were willing to get up that early to fight the temperatures. Priscilla, walk us through just more of the scorching temperatures down south. I mean, are you guys in for a record high where you are? What's expected?
So we are looking at possible record highs in places like South Carolina and South Florida. And you also have temperatures that are going to feel like up to 115 degrees in parts of the South. Just yesterday in Miami, they hit 100 degrees for only the second time ever. Oklahoma City, 109 degrees. So we are talking about triple-digit temperatures, and it is the combination of the heat and the humidity that is really oppressive. Here in Houston, already the Houston Fire Department says they've responded to more than 150 calls for heat emergencies this month, and the month is not even over, so still a long way to go as these dog days of summer continue.
Yeah, we are still in mid-August. While we have you and while we're talking about the weather, we do want to ask you about the growing threat of more severe storms across the Midwestern states. They just can't get a break from that weather. What more can you tell us?
Yeah, you still have some flood watches that are in effect in parts of the Midwest. And overnight, we saw Wisconsin getting inundated with some heavy rain, down trees, some very powerful storms there. And West Virginia actually had to declare a state of emergency because they were again this week experiencing that severe flooding, those rescues, just the devastating flooding that we've been seeing there over the summer continuing as this weather is just not letting up. Joe?
Yeah, days and days of flooding there. All right, Priscilla Thompson, do your best to stay cool. We appreciate your reporting this morning. Let's get a closer look at the scorching temperatures. Get your morning news now weather forecast with Angie Lastman. Angie, good morning.
Hi there, Joe. Good morning. We've got to talk about that heat and, of course, those severe storms. Let's start with the heat, though. That is where you'll find 70 million people under these alerts in a lot of the same spots that we've been talking about for days and days. Yesterday, we saw some really impressive records being broken. One of those spots, Miami, hit 100 degrees for the first time on record. Today, not going to be much different. We've really still got most of those kind of regions dealing with the same thing, with two areas of high pressure kind of ushering in that heat and keeping us stuck in the heat, or at least for the long haul. 96 degrees in New Orleans today. It'll feel like 110. It'll be feeling like 107 in Myrtle Beach. Memphis, 111 for your heat index. Fort Lauderdale expected to feel like 108. We've got plenty of humidity to tap into here, which really just adds insult to injury. We've got 105 in Dallas tomorrow afternoon, but we'll feel like 107. And you can see not much improvement even as we look ahead to this weekend. We do see a little bit of improvement when it comes to places like the Carolinas. Raleigh, you'll end up just into those mid 80s by the time Saturday rolls around, mid 90s for Memphis, but otherwise it's the high 90s or triple digits for Dallas, Baton Rouge, and of course across parts of the Gulf Coast where we will still be feeling much warmer than that, with 109 on tap on Friday for Baton Rouge for your feels like temperature. Savannah will end up feeling like 106. Again, not a lot of relief in sight even as we look ahead to the weekend. Speaking of relief, not a lot of relief from the flooding concerns across parts of the Midwest either. We've still got these flood alerts up for parts of Illinois and Indiana. No surprise with all of that rain that we received over the past week and more on the way. We're concerned still that we could see some additional flooding across this region. So note that we've still got this kind of front working its way slowly across parts of the plains and the Midwest. So again, we ramp up the shower and thunderstorm activity into the afternoon hours today. We will have that severe risk and the flood risk. And then by tomorrow, it kind of works across parts of the Ohio Valley in the Northeast and does leave us with kind of a messy day ahead for parts of the Mid-Atlantic. Really anywhere from Norfolk to New York, we'll see some kind of heavy rain as well. So busy indeed, but here's where we're watching specifically for the stronger storms today. Paducah to Springfield, we'll watch mainly wind gusts and hail, but an isolated tornado still in question for today. And on top of that, of course, the flash flooding. These hourly rainfall rates will still be impressive in some of these locations, Joe, and we could pick up another additional, 3 to even 5 inches in some of these spots that, again, could use a break from the rain and are really just trying to dry out, but not in the forecast at this time, unfortunately.
Angie, we know to keep an eye on it. Thank you so much. Much more to come here on Morning News Now. Later this hour, opting out. Federal health officials reporting a sizable drop in children getting vaccinated. More on the trend that has many doctors concerned. Up first after the break, Straight Talk. Talks between the U.S. and Iran at a standstill days after a ceasefire agreement came to an end. We will bring you the latest. Stay with us. We are back with the latest on the stalemate between the U.S. and Iran after a temporary ceasefire agreement between both sides ended on Monday. Uncertainty is growing now over what comes next. President Trump said in a social media post that no further talks were planned with Iran. He added, quote, "The naval blockade remains in full force in effect. The Hormuz Strait is open and operating. All water mines have been removed or detonated." Here to talk more about that and some other headlines out of the Middle East, NBC News international correspondent Raph Sanchez. So, Raph, President Trump says the Strait of Hormuz is open. That's not what Iran is saying, right? I mean, what do we know? Walk us through where things stand right now.
So, Joe, the president has repeatedly said that the Strait of Hormuz is open, that it's safe for ships to transit, but that is just not the reality facing seafarers right now. Yesterday, you had a commercial ship trying to pass through that critical waterway. It was attacked near the coast of Oman. One crew member there was killed, and it really just underscores the danger facing these commercial vessels. And so you were seeing ship captains, shipping companies, and the insurance companies behind them saying this is just way too dangerous dangerous still months into this conflict to try to make this journey. So right now you're seeing something like 12 to 15 ships going through the Strait of Hormuz every day. That is just a fraction of the pre-war totals of around 110. As a result, oil prices are starting to creep back up towards $90 a barrel. Now, the president says that there are no negotiations going on right now between the United States and Iran, but there is also no military solution in sight. There are still those talks continuing between the Iranians and the Omanis. We'll see what that will yield. One potentially significant development, Joe, the United Arab Emirates, that wealthy Gulf Arab nation across the waterway from Iran, is accusing the Iranians of firing a number of ballistic missiles at them. Iran denies that, but the UAE says it is cutting off all trade with Iran as a result. That could put a lot of financial pressure on Tehran. Jeff.
Something to keep an eye on there. Let's talk about Gaza. Palestinian health officials say at least 6 people were killed in an Israeli strike on Tuesday. It comes just one day after we know President Trump's special envoy and his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, was in the region to just sort of try and help jumpstart the stalled Gaza peace plan. First, what do we know about the attack, but also just what's the prospect of this plan getting back on track after Israel rejected it?
So, Joe, it is looking like stalemate in the Strait of Hormuz, and sadly, it is looking like stalemate in Gaza also. Jared Kushner spent something like 3.5 hours with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Monday, trying to get these talks moving. And it remains badly stalled. You see, Israel carried out that deadly strike in Gaza yesterday, just after Kushner had left the region. And this basically comes down to the deep, deep mistrust you're seeing between Israel and Hamas in an argument over who goes first. The Israelis are saying Hamas needs to disarm before they will withdraw from the Gaza Strip. Hamas is saying that there needs to be kind of a quid pro quo. The Israelis need to show willingness to withdraw for them to put down their guns. And of course, Joe, all of this is playing out against an Israeli political calendar. Prime Minister Netanyahu faces a re-election in October. He's down in the polls, and he cannot afford right now to give any ground to the hard right of his coalition. One of his cabinet ministers saying Israel should be killing 30 to 40 people in Gaza every single day.
And Raf, one more thing. We're watching developments in Syria. That's where an Israeli airstrike on a Syrian airbase is actually drawing some criticism from both the U.S. and from Turkey. Tell us what's going on here.
So basically, President Trump has taken a real interest in the new government of Syria that took over after the overthrow of the Assad regime back in late 2024. And he's taken a lot of interest in the new Syrian president, Ahmed al-Shara, who you might remember is a former al-Qaeda fighter who's put down his guns, put on a suit, and he's now trying to hold his country together. And the Trump administration is very frustrated by these Israeli airstrikes on a airbase up in northern Syria, which they feel risk destabilizing the country. The Israelis said they carried out the strikes because Turkish troops were preparing to move into that airbase. I want to read you just a little bit of the statement from Tom Barak, the U.S. ambassador to Turkey. He's saying these airstrikes constitute an unnecessary escalation that does not advance regional stability. And he's saying that the new Syrian government under Ahmed al-Shara repeatedly indicated a preference for de-escalation with Israel. So this is a relatively rare example of the United States openly criticizing Israel for its actions in Syria, even though there is a lot of frustration within the administration over Israeli actions in Gaza and elsewhere. Jeff.
Raf, lots to cover in the Middle East. Thank you so much for walking us through it. To get to some new developments on the war in Ukraine, a deadly Russian missile striking a busy area in northeastern Ukraine. NBC News international correspondent Claudio Lovanga joins us now to take us around the world in 60 seconds. Claudio, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. That's right. The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said that a Russian missile attack in a village in the Kharkiv region on Tuesday killed at least 10 people. Now, Zelensky called the attack brutal as it targeted a busy location with a post office, stores and residential buildings, and said Ukraine will definitely respond. According to the regional governor, the attack also injured 18 people. Let's go now to Andalusia in the south of Spain, where at least 3 people were lightly injured after 3 earthquakes shook the region on Tuesday. The magnitude 4 tremors followed a magnitude 5 earthquake in the city of Granada on Saturday. Tuesday's earthquakes caused some damage to buildings and forced the closure of some museums, including the Alhambra complex, one of Spain's most popular tourist sites. And let's end this tour of the world in Peru, where archaeologists unveiled the remains of a man who they believed was sacrificed during a ritual hundreds of years ago. The remains were found near the base of the Huacapucllana, an ancient pyramid in the capital Lima. The archaeologist who led the excavation said the find will help researchers better understand the rituals and ceremonies performed centuries ago. What is not clear, Joe, is whether whatever they wanted to achieve with the sacrifice of a man, they achieved. Who knows? Right. We'll never know.
All right. Claudia, thank you so much. Coming up on Morning News Now, good for the body and the brain. Researchers giving us a little more motivation to get that morning workout in. The new study that shows exercise could help fight off dementia. It's next in our weekly checkup. We'll be right back. We are back with growing concerns for the public health of children across the U.S. New CDC data shows a dramatic decrease in the number of kids getting vaccinated before starting public school, something all states require. The CDC says routine vaccination coverage for kindergartners dropped to roughly 92% for shots that protect against diseases like whooping cough and the measles. Medical experts warn that's much lower than the 95% number needed to prevent outbreaks. The data shows a record number of parents opting out of vaccines for non-medical reasons, meaning they cited personal or religious reasons. I'm joined now by NBC News health and medical reporter Erica Edwards. Erica, good morning. You've been digging into this. I know this new data comes as the Trump administration is pushing for school kids to actually get fewer shots. Help us understand what's happening here and why are fewer children getting vaccines?
Hey, Joe, good morning. You know, this trend had been bubbling for years and then really took off during the pandemic when skepticism about COVID shots really spilled over into other vaccines. The new CDC data showed that just 0.2% of vaccine exemptions for kindergartners last year were for medical reasons, leaving the vast majority for religious or simply personal reasons to opt out of those shots. 46 states have that exemption loophole, so it's very easy for parents in this country to not get their children vaccinated, Joe.
You spoke to several doctors for your reporting. I mean, what is their biggest concern if we just don't get these vaccine rates up? How do we turn that? What happens if we don't turn this around?
You know, they're very concerned that this will only likely continue because of the president's executive order that you mentioned, cutting back on childhood vaccines, especially his unfounded comments, sowing doubt on the safety of the measles, mumps, rubella, or MMR shots. But other vaccine preventable illnesses, like you mentioned, the whooping cough, are on the rise. And that's really the biggest concern here, is that measles is first, but these other vaccine preventable illnesses will also continue to increase, Joe.
Let's talk about what doctors do recommend when it comes to these vaccine decisions. What are doctors saying that parents and children should be doing?
It's very simple. When in doubt, talk to your trusted pediatrician. They do this for a living. They're passionate about children's health, and they welcome conversations about vaccines. I talked with a bunch of doctors yesterday who said that they're getting a lot more of those parents coming in asking about the science behind the vaccines, what's going on, what's real, what's not. They say, talk to pediatricians, maybe not politicians. Joe.
Yeah, that's always good advice when you're talking about medical decisions. The CDC data you looked at also reveals a separate concern. We're talking about measles here. Measles cases in the U.S. hitting a 35-year high this year, topping more than 2,500 cases as of Monday. We know there are ongoing outbreaks in states like Ohio, Pennsylvania, Utah. What could happen if measles keeps spreading?
Utah is a great example. It's had an ongoing measles outbreak for more than a year. MMR shots in that state have plummeted in the past decade, down to just 87% last school year. And that will likely play a big role in a November meeting of the Pan American Health Organization. That's the group tasked with determining whether the U.S. will ultimately lose its status of having eliminated measles from circulation back in 2000. So stay tuned, Joe.
If you lose that status, what does that mean?
It means that we really lost control of a disease that had been out of this country for 30 years. And it means that we have let these illnesses continue to bubble up and really sicken thousands of children.
All right. Erica Edwards, as always, appreciate your reporting. Thank you so much. Let's stay with medical news. It is time now for your weekly checkup. This morning, we're looking at a surprising new study that finds a link between traffic accidents and music, plus another mind-body connection. We're looking at new research into how you can best move your body for your brain health. Let's bring in NBC News medical contributor Dr. Kavita Patel with more on these stories. Dr. Patel, we know exercise is important for overall health, but we're learning it's especially important for our brains as we age. We have this new research. It was published in the British journal, The Lancet Public Health, finds not just how much you move, but what you're moving for. Talk about why that's important.
Yeah, that's right, Joe. So this was a meta-analysis, or what we would call a study of studies, looking at over 70 studies, millions of adults, and really to analyze this research paradox that's well known in heart disease, meaning it's not just when you move or what you do, but why you're moving. And what they found was that if you engage in what we would call leisure time activity, that could be vigorous activity like running or swimming, but it could also be leisure activity like walking with a friend, that was actually linked to as high as a 24% risk reduction of dementia. But when you're doing physical activity for work alone, so kind of occupational related movement in your job, think someone that's got to walk up and down hallways, someone who's handling wait staff, et cetera, that actually could be linked to a higher risk of dementia, Joe. So this just shows us. And then there was also kind of a lukewarm reception around household chores. They might be protective, but in this case, the doctor's orders are pretty clear that if you want to start movement and to think about the purpose for your movement, that any amount of that leisurely activity can help.
Very cool. All right. The next study is fascinating to me. Researchers actually looked at the traffic patterns on big album release days. They did it between the years of 2017 and 2022. Talk about some of the surprising data researchers found there.
Yeah, so this is a correlation study. So what the researchers did was to try to look for patterns of association. And I think the origin of this study is interesting. One of the co-authors actually did this study after he was texted about a new release of an album while he was driving and veered out of lane. And it made him think, could this be happening at a much more fatal occurrence? And what he did is looked at 5 years of data, 2017 to 2022, looked at the top 10 released and most streamed albums on Spotify. That includes one of my favorite, Taylor Swift's Midnights. But it showed that basically in the 10 days before and after those album releases, Joe, they saw a 15% increase in fatalities. This is just an association, but it is a statistically significant one, mostly in younger drivers and mostly in people who were alone in cars. So what does this tell us? It doesn't tell us to stop listening to our favorite music. The doctor's orders here are actually also pretty clear. Stay focused on the road. Don't blast your music. And if you have a passenger, ask them to operate a music, or do what I do, Joe. Try to plan that list. If we know that there's something you really want to rock out to and listen to, get that going before you get in behind the wheel.
Maybe albums will have to come with a warning, like, careful while listening or something like that.
Absolutely. That's right.
All right. Finally, you were talking moments ago about walking with a friend. We want to talk about meaningful friendships. They don't just make your social life better. They do make your health better as well. Walk us through the connection here.
Yeah, Joe, I've often kind of felt with patients that healthy connections are one of the most important vital signs. It's as important, if not in this study, showing potentially more important than some of our other vital signs. So this was a study that was done, a survey across 22 countries, which in itself is really fascinating, over hundreds of thousands of adults, where they asked them a lot of questions just about different aspects of their life: finances, religion, social connections, friendships. And lo and behold, no surprise that people who self-reported these kind of positive social connections actually also reported better both mental and physical health. And so this was something incredibly, not eye-opening, Joe, but I think it just reinforces a lot of the research we're seeing around healthy connections, including relationships as well as religion. So the doctor's orders here, it sounds hard, but it's really trying to do things to prioritize relationships among other things in your life. And you can make time not just to create friendships, but even small connections with friends can be meaningful.
We just keep seeing these studies that show the benefits, not just mentally, but physically, of these strong connections. Dr. Patel, good to have you with us. Thank you so much. Coming up, turbulence for travelers. Cancellations and delays are soaring at airports across the country. What you need to know before your next trip. We got that after the break. This is Morning News Now. We are back with day 3 of testimony in the murder trial for Dwayne Keefe Davis. He's the man accused of ordering a hit on rapper Tupac Shakur in 1996. Prosecutors are expected to call more witnesses today, hoping to solidify their case, which is focused on gang retaliation and premeditation. Yesterday, the prosecution highlighted this surveillance video. It shows a fight in the lobby of a Las Vegas casino just hours before the shooting. NBC News correspondent Dana Griffin has the latest.
The graphic images of Tupac's body revealed to the jury.
This is an entrance gunshot wound.
Some of his family walking out of the courtroom before a forensic pathologist testified Tupac died from gunshot wounds to his chest and abdomen.
Do you have an opinion as to the manner of death?
Yes.
And what is that?
Homicide.
The night of the shooting, video from the MGM Grand shows Tupac leaving the venue after that beatdown of defendant Dwayne Keefe Davis's nephew, Orlando Anderson. Hours later, Tupac is gunned down in what prosecutors call a retaliatory drive-by shooting.
Treat me as a hostile witness.
An associate of Suge Knight, James McDonald, who says he did not want to be here, testified about gang retaliation culture.
I don't want to send him to prison.
Sure.
Even though we don't like each other.
He got killed. I didn't even hear those shots. I just seen the crowd run. I was like,
Audio from a 1997 police interview played in court revealing Davis was in a car outside the Los Angeles party where Christopher Biggie Smalls Wallace was gunned down. Why the recording was introduced remains unclear. Defense attorney Michael Sampt telling reporters his strategy is to paint Davis's statements, including his own memoir, where he admits to being involved in Tupac's death, as unreliable.
Yeah, you're essentially telling the jury that your client is a liar.
Yep, I am. Yes, that's true. Our thanks to Dana Griffin for that report. Another witness testified yesterday about the relationship between rival record labels, Death Row and Bad Boy, even before Shakur's death. He said at times the tension was so high, things got violent. If you ever tried to fly anywhere this summer, then you already know flight cancellations and delays are getting worse across the country. Federal stats show only 73% of U.S. flights in June arrived on time. For more, let's bring in Eve Chen. She's a senior consumer travel reporter at USA Today. Like us, she's experienced her fair share of delays recently, so she decided to look at what's going on and what we can do about it. Eve, good to have you with us. Not just our imagination. More flights are getting delayed or canceled. Tell us, how bad is it, and what are some of the reasons we're seeing more of these delays?
Thanks for having me, Joe. You know, everyone feels it when delays happen, so I would say I don't know the cause for every single delay, but we know that seasonally storms are a big factor. And once you've got storms in one place, it can have a domino effect on the schedule of flights. Even if it looks perfectly fine where you are or in the city that you're heading to, if there is inclement weather along that flight path, think of it kind of like a highway in the sky. It really can have a ripple effect on not only that flight, but the flights after it, because flights are packed so close back to back.
Yeah, that's why I always keep an eye on where my plane is coming from, not just where I am and where it's going to. Passengers here in the U.S. do have some rights if you are delayed. Sometimes we aren't totally familiar with those rights. But first of all, is there a difference between your flight being delayed or canceled? And then what's the responsibility of the airline toward passengers who are on those flights?
Absolutely. The first thing I'd say is you have to find out the reason for the cancellation or delay, because whether or not it's a controllable reason or something that's out of the airline's control factors into what kind of accommodations you can get. So let's start with cancellations, because those are the easiest. Whether your flight is canceled for a reason that is within or outside of the airline's control, if you decide to no longer fly, you're like, forget this, I'm not going to travel anymore, you are entitled to a refund, no matter what kind of ticket you bought, even if it's a non-refundable type flight, you are able to get a refund. However, if it is something that is within the airline's control and it's canceled or significantly delayed, so think of like 3 hours or longer, you can get other types of accommodations. So it might be something like meals or a meal voucher, or if it's an overnight delay, then a hotel stay and ground transportation between the airport and hotel. But it really depends on why your flight is canceled or delayed. If it's just delayed for something like weather, which is outside of the airline's control, then unfortunately you just have to sit and wait it out, like I have many times this summer.
Yeah, and Mother Nature is not giving out vouchers last time I checked. So are there ways we can prepare if we do think our flight plan might be altered, might be delayed, maybe even canceled in some way?
Absolutely. One of the first things you can actually do is in the booking process, look for a morning flight, because then you've got lots more opportunity in the day if there is some sort of issue that you can reschedule your flight for something later. So look for a morning flight. Try to get a direct flight so you don't have, that tension of whether or not you're going to make that connection. If you absolutely need to make a connection, give yourself plenty of time in that connection. I know I hate wasting time at the airport in between flights, but if you cut it too tight and your first flight is delayed, you might be in tough luck for the second one. So give yourself plenty of time for connections between flights. And then on the day of travel, certainly keep a track on where your flight is, what the status is. Airlines will often notify you if there is some sort of delay or cancellation by text or email, but you should also be proactive by checking yourself, seeing where your plane is. Another thing that you can do is kind of know what you are owed if something does happen, and be your own best advocate. So check and see if there are maybe some alternatives that the airline might not offer you. If you're flying from somewhere like New York or Los Angeles, you might be able to ask to fly out of a different airport if they are not impacted by the same kind of delays that you are. It's up to a case-by-case scenario, but it doesn't hurt to ask.
Yeah, it never hurts to ask. All right, Eve Chen, good to have you with us. Some good advice. Thank you so much. Coming up on Morning News Now, from a pie in the sky to an American dream realized.
What kind of emotion does it stir up to think about how far Ikeda's has come?
I can't begin to tell you. It's just, I'm so proud of them. I really am.
Up next, we're going to introduce you to the family that turned a humble fruit stand into the #1 pie shop in the country. Don't be flaky. Leave that to the pies. We'll be right back. We are back with the countdown to the iconic Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. It is the 100th year of the beloved holiday tradition. I had a chance to visit Macy's Studios last night to kick off the 100-day countdown. Got a first look at one of their new balloons. His name is Billy Brightpaw. He's a brand new original character created specifically for the parade. That's the balloon I was standing in front of a moment ago. Billy will join a record-breaking lineup of 100 inflatable elements spanning the parade's 100-year history. You can tune in to the entire event on Thursday, November 26th on NBC, Peacock, and Telemundo, starting at 8:30 a.m. in all time zones. Finally this hour, what started as a small roadside fruit stand in California has blossomed into the #1 pie shop in the country. It's called Ikeda's, and it's pronounced exactly like the name of our colleague and friend Emily Ikeda. Now, there's no real connection between the two, but it only seems right that we sent Emily to check it out.
As the sun rises over the foothills of the Sierra Nevada, work is already underway at Ikeda's Country Market in Auburn, California. Cranking out up to 1,000 handcrafted pies a day and incorporating fresh fruit plucked from their 40 acres of orchards.
How many years have you been coming to Ikeda's? 38 years.
Then the surge of salivating customers.
Today we're getting cherry cobbler. There's a lot to choose from. Yeah, and they're all delicious.
This 3-generation family business was just voted USA Today's #1 pie shop in the country. Writing Ikeda's has evolved into a must-visit destination where the country charm remains authentic and the pie selection vast for travelers between the Bay Area and Lake Tahoe.
What kind of emotion does it stir up to think about how far Ikeda's has come?
I can't begin to tell you. It's just, I'm so proud of them. I really am.
That's Satoko Sally Ikeda, who founded the business in 1972 alongside her husband Sam, who has since passed.
It was really hard work. It was just work, 7 days a week, 12, 13 hours a day.
The couple's farming experience rooted in hardship. The Ikedas were among the 125,000+ people of Japanese descent who were ripped from their homes and forced into Japanese incarceration camps during World War II. Like my own family, also incarcerated, one of the only opportunities for work after the war for Japanese Americans was farming.
The peach is the most popular, and then the apple is the second most popular.
So Glenn Ikeda's parents, Sam and Sally, took a chance on this steep plot of land to grow produce to sell directly to the consumer in a humble roadside fruit stand.
My dad decided to go somewhere where the water would sheet off faster and not stay in the tree wells, and it makes it a much more intense flavored fruit.
I quickly learned what he meant by intensely flavorful.
All right, let's try it. On a hot day like this, what's better than a juicy peach?
You can't get anything better than that.
While Sam and Sally planted the seeds of the business, it was Glenn who suggested putting unused fruit into pies.
You probably get 20% that are perfect for the deck. And so when I graduated from college, I said, Dad, you're throwing too much fruit away. Maybe what we should look at is taking that fruit and turning it into something.
Turning the imperfect, perfect.
Wow!
There you go.
Grandson Derek Ikeda walked me through how to craft a customer favorite.
And then you're just going to keep going around and over.
Crimping.
We like to load these with a lot of apples.
Filling and topping a Dutch apple pie.
Ready to try this?
Let's try it.
All right.
Wow.
The menu in their now 2 California locations has continued to blossom, offering more than 20 sweet and savory pies, homemade sauces, and Ikeda merch. And if you notice, we share a last name. To clarify, we are not related.
Ikeda's a common Japanese name.
It really is.
A name now behind the country's best pies and source of great pride for Derek and his family.
What are you most proud of when it comes to your grandparents?
Yeah, just the grit and the mentality that they had.
I know your grandfather has since passed, but what do you think he would be thinking looking at the growth of Ikeda's?
I think he'd be very proud, and it's all just connecting it all as a family. It's very heartwarming.
Emily, thanks so much for that heartwarming story. As for what's next, right now, Ikeda's only has 2 shops in Northern California, but they're hoping to expand both their menu and their locations. That does it for this hour of Morning News Now. Stay with us. The news continues right now. Good morning, I'm Joe Fryer. Savannah is on assignment. Right now on Morning News Now, late summer scorcher. Nearly 70 million people stretching all across the South, waking up under those dangerous heat alerts. And folks from South Florida to Texas could flirt with more record high temps later today. Angie is here tracking it all. Also this morning, another major victory for progressives overnight, this time out of Battle State, Florida. NBC News projecting Democratic Socialist Angie Nixon besting her more mainstream opponent. The chart throb himself, Steve Kornacki, is here breaking down her path toward November, some of the other key races that we are keeping an eye on. Plus, our shaken up stomachs hit for weeks by that spiteful cyclospora outbreak finally starting to settle. New numbers from the CDC look like they're trending in the right direction, but medical experts say we should still stay vigilant. How you can stay healthy for that last bit of summer fun. And spent, it's an open secret, Americans are positively fed up with a tipping culture that some consumers say has gone far enough. But is the pressure to pay up actually hurting workers in the long run? And when, if ever, is it appropriate to tap that no-tip option? We're watching your bottom line later this hour. We're going to begin this hour with that late summer heat wave that is gripping much of the southern U.S. this morning. Millions are under heat alerts thanks to the sweltering heat and humidity. And this steamy stretch of weather is not over yet. Triple-digit temps will hit some areas, just as many students are getting back to school. With the blanket heat also comes a new risk of severe storms for millions of others in Midwestern states like Ohio and, once again, Indiana. NBC News correspondent Priscilla Thompson joins us now from just outside Houston, where a football team is practicing quite early. Priscilla, good morning.
Yeah, Joe, good morning. The sun is barely up here, but already the Katy High School football team is out on the field getting that practice in before those temperatures start to soar. It is something that is happening across the state of Texas as this brutal heat continues. This morning, a scorching summer sizzle sweeping the South.
The humidity's the killer.
Relentless heat and oppressive humidity, making it feel like up to 115 degrees for millions of Americans. Miami hitting a record high 100 degrees for only the second time ever.
And I just feel the sweat just rolling down my back.
Some students in Decatur, Georgia, forced to learn virtually after one school's HVAC system was overwhelmed.
What should parents be thinking about as they're sending kids back to school in this heat?
Making sure that their kids are staying hydrated when they come home from school or practice, that they're hydrating at that time.
In Texas, already this month, the Houston Fire Department has responded to more than 150 heat emergency calls.
It can be, I just don't feel well, I'm tired, I'm thirsty, to changes in mental status. People can get confused, they can have seizures.
A tree got tossed from across the street.
Meanwhile, overnight, violent rainstorms tore across Wisconsin. Oh my God! Bringing down trees and making a mess of neighborhoods. And West Virginia under a state of emergency this morning after days of heavy rain led to devastating flash floods, rescues, and widespread damage. Many roads still impassable, forcing one school to delay the first day of classes. Back in Florida, it's not just people feeling the heat. At Zoo Miami, the fire department delivering a jumbo-sized spray down to help elephants beat the blaze, as summer's scorching send-off serves up more sweltering days. And Joe, just to give you a sense of the precautions here, you have these water stations that are set up all around the fields here. You also have athletic trainers out here with water bottles, making sure that these players stay hydrated. And Texas has implemented new rules about how they measure heat, looking at not only temperature and humidity, but also things like direct sunlight, cloud cover, and wind. It's part of a new playbook to ensure that players stay safe as temperatures soar. Joe?
Science helping out as much as possible. All right, Priscilla, thank you so much. Let's get the latest on those record high temps in the south. Angie Lastman joins us now with the forecast. Angie, good morning.
Hi there, Joe. Good morning to you. We've no surprise got plenty of heat alerts up yet again this morning as we head out the door. Places like the Southwest, across the southern tier of the country, essentially all the way to the East Coast, are dealing with this oppressive heat, as you just heard Priscilla say. Here's the current setup. We've got a high pressure kind of parked over Texas. That is leaving us kind of ushering in some of this really warm and dry air across that region. And then we've got this Bermuda high that's kind of spinning just off the coast. That's helping to usher in the heat and the humidity across parts of the southeast. So yesterday, Miami hit 100 degrees. That is the first time ever in recorded history. And you might think, well, Miami's hot. Of course we're going to hit 100 degrees. No, not so much. We've got kind of the ocean influence that normally keeps us below that mark. But because we've got just kind of this really impressive setup of heat ushering all of that warm air into this region, we are seeing, again, potential records throughout the next couple of days as well. Here's where we land today. Memphis at 102, but feels like 111. Myrtle Beach, you'll feel like 107. Fort Lauderdale, you'll feel like 108. 110 for New Orleans for your heat index later today. Tomorrow, essentially copy paste. We're still going to see the triple digits for the actual temperatures across parts of the southern plains. And then you add in the humidity, and across parts of the Carolinas, the southeast, it feels like 100 plus. So still taking those necessary precautions that Priscilla just kind of laid out for folks in this region. And even as we get into the weekend, it doesn't look like we'll see much relief, especially if you live along the Gulf Coast. Maybe if you're looking at Memphis on Sunday, 94 looks a little better for you. Even those mid 80s in Raleigh on Saturday, that is an improvement. But again, we've still got plenty of humidity to tap into, so it's still going to feel like at least the 90s across this entire region, if not the triple digits in places like Savannah Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Meanwhile, we've got more rain on the way. A big batch of kind of some of this rain working into parts of western New York. We've also got some showers and thunderstorms sitting across parts of the Midwest. Notice the flood watches are up across Illinois and Indiana. We had all of that rain in the past week or so, and we've got more on the way, and it's going to come in kind of waves. So you can see here's as we get through 8 p.m. tonight, we'll see some of that kind of right along that front as it sinks a little farther into the plains and in the Midwest. So that's why we're concerned about the flooding. That kind of works its way across parts of the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast tomorrow, Joe. So the flooding concern still there. The heavy rain threat is going to be there as well and expanding across parts of the East.
All right, Angie, thank you so much. Now to the results of last night's primaries in several states. Key races in Florida, Wyoming, and Alaska are giving us a clearer picture of the midterm races that are taking shape for November. NBC News Chief Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles has the details. Ryan, good morning.
The results from the Florida Democratic primary are shocking. State Representative Angie Nixon was outspent by more than $15 million in this closely watched primary. It's another major win for the progressive wing of the Democratic Party in this competitive primary season. Overnight, an upset with major implications for Democrats. In Florida, State Representative Angie Nixon, a Democratic socialist, defeating moderate candidate Alexander Vindman, a star witness in President Trump's first impeachment.
We, the hard-working, everyday people of Florida, sent a shockwave to the Washington, D.C. establishment.
The president posting overnight, sleazebag Vindman loses to a radical left lunatic. How cool is that? Nixon had said she recently joined the Democratic Socialists of America.
It is not about labels. It's about the most basic rights that people here in the state need.
Now she faces an uphill battle against the Republican nominee Ashley Moody, in a state that hasn't sent a Democrat to the Senate in 14 years.
My sister, who is with us tonight, says sometimes you have to fight like crazy to fight crazy. And we are staring down crazy in the socialists today.
Progressives and moderates have been battling throughout this primary as the Democratic Party tries to find its identity and take back power from Republicans in Washington. Also in Florida, a closely watched race for governor, with Congressman Byron Donalds, backed by President Trump, securing the Republican nomination as he looks to succeed Ron DeSantis.
Are you with me to keep Florida red?
Donalds will face the Democratic nominee, former Congressman David Jolly, a one-time Republican turned prominent Trump critic.
When we win the Florida governorship, guess what? We do just that. We reshape American politics.
And another closely watched Senate race taking shape in Alaska. Republican incumbent Dan Sullivan on defense, looking to secure a third term, as Democrats aim to flip that critical Senate seat, running former Congresswoman Mary Peltola.
It's a real campaign now. We are real.
Sullivan and Peltola qualifying for the general election, which will include the top 4 vote getters, one of whom could be another candidate named Dan Sullivan, a retired teacher who could earn a place on the November ballot, possibly causing confusion for voters down the road. The Senate race was not the only surprising result last night in Florida. Embattled Republican incumbent Corey Mills lost his primary to former TV news anchor Ryan Elijah in a House race based in the Orlando area. Democrats have targeted that seat as a potential pickup based partly on the scandals surrounding Mills.
All right, thank you so much. Let's take a closer look at some of those closely watched races in Florida. NBC News chief data analyst Steve Kornacki is breaking down the numbers at the big board. Hey, Steve, good morning.
All right, a surprise in Florida in the Democratic primary for the United States Senate. Angie Nixon, candidate running far to the left, defeats Alexander Vindman. Vindman, a prominent name in Democratic politics. He was the whistleblower at the heart of the 2019 impeachment of Donald Trump during his first term. Vindman had been the heavy favorite in this race, had raised by far the most money, had brought in national endorsements, but he's defeated handily by Angie Nixon. She will go on, Nixon, to face in the general election Ashley Moody. Ashley Moody was appointed to this seat to replace Marco Rubio when he joined the Trump administration. Democrats had been hoping to make Florida a competitive race in the general election. Those hopes from the Democratic leaders were predicated on Vindman winning the primary. And so now with a candidate, again, running to the left, to put it mildly, Nixon joined the DSA, Democratic Socialists of America, during her campaign. She's going to try to win a general election in a state that went for Trump by 13 points against Ashley Moody, who had no problem winning her Republican primary tonight for the United States Senate. When it comes to the races for governor in the state, no surprise there in either party. On the Republican side, Congressman Byron Donalds, endorsed by Donald Trump early in this campaign, wins by almost 2-1 over Jay Collins. Collins, the lieutenant governor, he had sought the endorsement of his boss, Governor Ron DeSantis, in this campaign, but DeSantis stayed on the sidelines. He endorsed nobody. In the Democratic primary, no surprise either, David Jolly, a former congressman, former Republican congressman, wins that primary handily. He'll be the Democratic nominee against Donalds. In the House, in congressional primaries in Florida, a major development in the 7th Congressional District, where Congressman Corey Mills, embattled by scandal, is defeated in the Republican primary by Ryan Elijah. Ryan Elijah, a local television personality in the Orlando area, handily defeating Corey Mills. Mills, who had lots of scandal in this campaign, pointedly In the last days of this campaign, Donald Trump released a number of endorsements across Florida, folks he had endorsed before, but he reiterated those endorsements. He did not reiterate his early endorsement of Corey Mills days before this happened. Mills, a House incumbent who loses. We've seen a number of those during this primary season. Other House incumbents who had difficult or potentially difficult primaries on the Democratic side, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, she's going to end up surviving hers. There was a bunch of redrawing of the districts in South Florida, so she ended up, Wasserman Schultz, leaving what otherwise would be her district, where her house is, to run in this district, the 20th district. There was some controversy. It's plurality African-American. The opposition to Wasserman Schultz was divided here. She wins this primary handily. It is a overwhelmingly Democratic district. Looks like she will survive and head back to Congress most likely. And in the 25th district here, congressional district, you see the Republican primary. This is Scott Singer. He's the mayor of Boca. He's going to be the Republican nominee against another Democratic incumbent who faced it seemed potentially complicated primary here. Jared Moskowitz challenged by a Democratic Socialists of America endorsed opponent, Oliver Larkin. But in this case, Moskowitz wins. He wins handily. So it'll be Moskowitz against Singer in the general election here. This will be a closely watched general election. This is one of 4 congressional districts in Florida. Currently, the Democrats represent that Republicans, through redistricting, are trying to flip here in the 2026 midterms. This will be one of them, Moskowitz against Singer on the Republican side. So a Republican incumbent goes down, Corey Mills. A Democratic establishment figure is toppled in the Democratic primary for the United States Senate. A lot of drama in Florida.
All right, Steve, walking us through all of that. Let's keep the politics going, developing overnight. President Trump says he's placing a 3-day pause on those 50% tariffs on some Canadian goods. Those levies were set to go into effect today. Here to talk more about that, NBC News White House correspondent Monica Alba. So, Monica, what is behind this last-minute pause by President Trump?
Well, look, Joe, this is something that we have seen before. The president sometimes makes these threats, specifically when it comes to trade deals, and then he walks them back to see if there's time to work out a deal. So effectively, he wrote yesterday on social media that there is going to be a 3-day pause to see if the U.S. and Canada can work out an agreement that would avoid putting this 50% tariffs into place on more than $20 billion worth of Canadian goods on everything from wine to cheese to hockey sticks. And so that's a situation where if those tariffs do go into effect, there are states here that really could feel the economic pinch as well because they import those kinds of items. But again, we have seen these kinds of tariffs be walked back from, so it's possible the president will do that. We know that they have been working both sides on the finer points of an agreement, but we don't have the specifics of what's in there. And important context to all of this, Joe, is the fact that this is basically the U.S. trying to pressure Canada to scale back or drop its retaliatory measures that it put into place when the first U.S. tariffs went out against Canada. And so this is really just the latest back and forth in this trade war.
Yeah, so Monica, what is Canada saying about this? What are we hearing from the Prime Minister, Mark Carney?
Yeah, so he put out a statement overnight saying that there had been some progress on all of this, but that there is still important work to be done. So raising questions about whether they really can iron out all of these details in the next 3 days, whether this is something that's going to get punted further or whether those tariffs could actually potentially go into effect 3 days from now. Joe.
All right. Monica Alba at the White House. Monica, thank you so much. New data from the CDC is shining a light on the ongoing cyclospora outbreak. Since May, more than 15,000 confirmed cases of cyclosporiasis, with another nearly 12,000 cases unconfirmed. Medical experts say the data suggests the worst could possibly be behind us, but that we all need to still stay vigilant about the food we eat. NBC News national correspondent Aaron Gilchrist joins us now from outside the CDC headquarters in Atlanta with more on this. Aaron, good morning.
Hey, Joe, good morning. The CDC's latest numbers do show that daily cyclosporiasis cases are trending downwards. At the same time, we know that there have been thousands more cases than we typically would see in a summer, including those 2 deaths in Michigan. And there is lingering concern about multiple outbreaks happening all at the same time. This morning, cyclospora still wrecking summer fun across America.
I started having really bad stomach pain and really bad nausea.
the parasite leaving its prey with aches at best and, at worst, severe stomach illness.
It was just all bad, and I do not wish that on my worst enemy.
But this morning, experts say new CDC numbers are signaling a downward trend in the months-long Cyclospora outbreak. The agency confirming more than 15,700 cases of cyclosporiasis since May 1st and says it's looking into another nearly 12,000 potential cases, some of which federal officials say are linked to the recalled iceberg lettuce supplied by Taylor Farms. And while those numbers surpass last year's tally of 1,180 cases for a similar time frame, medical professionals are cautiously optimistic.
Curves are showing us that the cases and the diagnoses are slowing down.
But they say we still need to be vigilant with our produce.
There are still a number of outbreaks that do not have an identified source. And I think that's just a reminder that we're still in the thick of it.
And while more shoppers heed the advice to thoroughly clean their fruits and vegetables and cook them when possible, Dr. Patel says taking action if you experience symptoms is key.
Make sure that you present to a healthcare professional. I think that could be the most important information to stay safe this summer.
The season for cyclosporiasis typically winds down at the end of August, but may take a little longer this year.
I just want a salad, bro. Like, can we get past this?
Now, we are still waiting on the latest on the salmonella cases that have been linked to jalapenos. We know we expect those numbers to come out sometime this week, Joe.
All right, Aaron, thank you so much. We got much more to come on this hour of Morning News Now, including the tip of the iceberg for American shoppers who say they're fed up with shelling out extra cash during so many transactions. How to cope with so-called tipping fatigue. First, though, after the break, some somber developments in the death of Hayden Panettiere, her estranged mother now speaking out. We've got the latest next. We are back with the growing questions surrounding the death of actress Hayden Panettiere. She passed away Sunday at a rented apartment in Greenville, South Carolina. NBC News recently obtained an incident report that details what first responders found on the scene. We're also hearing from Panettiere's mother, who spoke exclusively to NBC News, her first interview since her daughter's death. NBC News correspondent Steve Patterson joins me now with the very latest. Steve, good morning.
Joe, good morning to you. The Greenville Police Department, the Greenville County Coroner's Office working in concert to determine what caused the death of the former child star, as new documents now shed light on what first responders first saw.
This morning, the circumstances of Hayden Panettiere's death raising new questions. A heavily redacted incident report obtained by NBC News stating both Panettiere's on-again, off-again boyfriend Brian Hickerson and his brother Zach were present when police arrived on scene. Zach was very emotional as paramedics worked on Panettiere, the document says, while Brian Hickerson did not become emotional until after she was pronounced dead. The responding officer adding Hickerson showed him a bag of medication he says Panettiere was on. Meanwhile, Panettiere's mother, Leslie Vogel, is speaking out for the first time, telling NBC News exclusively in a phone interview, Hayden sadly lost her way, and I wish it were different. I wish she had stayed true to herself because she had many incredible attributes. Vogel, who used to be Panettiere's manager, said the last time she and her daughter spoke was in October. In May, Panettiere addressing their strained relationship on the Jay Shetty podcast.
I can't even remember a time where she wasn't a momager. You know, where everything didn't revolve around business.
Shetty calling Panettiere brave yesterday, writing, quote, "You should never have had to experience the things you did." Months before her death, Panettiere had also been speaking out about her relationship with Brian Hickerson. In 2021, Hickerson pleaded no contest to 2 domestic violence charges and was sentenced to 4 years probation. He's not responded to NBC News' request for comment. In her memoir, This Is Me, Panettiere says he once left her face so badly beaten that she didn't leave the house for weeks. This morning, tributes for the actress, who would have turned 37 this week, continue to pour in. Panettiere's Bring It On co-star Solange Knowles posting, "Rest in peace, Hayden. In peace, because you are so deserving of it."
So the Greenville Police Department has said a preliminary investigation did not show evidence of foul play or suspicious circumstances. The county coroner's office said it could be weeks before it gets back toxicology reports that might determine what caused the actress's sudden death. Until then, we just won't know. Joe?
All right, Steve, thank you so much. This morning, we are also remembering the life of a rock icon whose beats defined the songs of a generation. Frank Beard was a founding member and drummer for the band ZZ Top. He died yesterday after going into hospice. Beard played with the band for more than 50 years. In that time, they spun off hits like Sharp Dressed Man and Legs. Frontman Billy Gibbons, now the only surviving original member of the iconic trio. Gibbons and the rest of ZZ Top plan to continue touring following Beard's death in accordance with the late drummer's wishes. Frank Beard was 77 years old. Coming up, a much different kind of crowd is flocking to popular beaches along the East Coast. The late summer invasion that you could say is putting a sting in the steps of tourists. We'll explain next. Back now with a closer look at what's making news in the world of politics this morning, starting with a surprise mail-in ballot in Florida's primary. NBC News politics reporter Megan Brand has that and some other Capitol Hill headlines. Megan, good morning.
Hey, Joe, good morning. Let's start with President Trump, who voted by mail for yesterday's Florida primary race. That's significant because he's previously called mail-in voting cheating and corrupt. He's also tried to limit it in his push for the Save America Act. A White House spokesperson, though, defended his move, saying that the Save America Act, quote, has common sense exceptions for Americans to use mail-in ballots for illness, disability, military, or travel. She called this a non-story and says that President Trump participates in Florida elections, but primarily lives at the White House. Let's turn next to the Senate, where Senator Alyssa Slotkin sent letters to Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Kane. In the letters, she asked the two leaders to confirm that the Defense Department will not send federal troops to polls or seize any election material. The Michigan Democrat expressed concerns in the letters that President Trump was, in her words, quote, laying the groundwork to send troops to the polls during the midterm elections. Slotkin previously introduced a bill that, if passed, would block President Trump from sending armed military or federal agents to polling sites. Finally, let's turn to Vice President J.D. Vance, who's heading to Ohio this Friday. He's making a trip to his hometown of Middletown, where he's planning to deliver a speech. That's according to a person familiar with the plans. Our colleague Henry Gomez reports that this speech is likely to kick off a busy travel season as we get closer to those November midterm elections. And that's a look at what's making news in politics this morning. Joe?
All right, Megan, thank you. For millions of beachgoers each summer, open water lifeguards are essential. Despite the dangers of their work, though, most aren't legally considered first responders. Well, now there's a move in Washington to change that. Telemundo meteorologist Gabriela Dayon explains why it matters.
Whether it's police, EMT, or firefighters, all first responders share one thing in common. When everybody runs from danger, they run towards it.
Our lifeguards are out here on the beaches, and we are the first ones to respond to any type of water-related emergency, but we're not actually first responders by government designations.
Now, a new push from open water lifeguards across the country to be federally recognized as first responders. Like these lifeguards at Jones Beach were working nonstop.
Last night, we ran over 40 rescues on this one particular field alone.
In addition to advanced first aid and professional CPR, those challenging situations require intense training. What does the training look like?
It's going to be demanding physically, mentally, psychologically. But it's also going to consist of a lot of running, a lot of swimming, a lot of high-intensity cardiovascular work, learning how to use a rescue board.
We got a front row seat to some of those drills, preparing them for one of the biggest threats.
Rip currents act as treadmills of the ocean, pulling swimmers away up to 8 feet per second. In those situations, help can be the difference between life and death.
The majority of the rescues that occur in any open body of water are from rip currents. A trained professional open water lifeguard knows where the rip currents are. They're able to detect them and see them.
Climate change and warming waters increasing the number of encounters with marine life. Lifeguards say adding an extra layer of danger.
It almost seems like unfair, right? Like, why do we risk our lives every day to save the general public? And we don't have that designated first responder status.
Matthew Zucchetti is spearheading the federal effort for recognition.
We're not asking for funds. We're just asking for the proper respect that we earned. Without lifeguards, people die.
The resolution waiting to be voted on by the House of Representatives aims to give lifeguards the official designation of emergency response providers. Zucchetti says if it passes, open water lifeguards could be afforded the same benefits as other first responders in their state.
It's line of duty death benefits. Another aspect of it is the mental health issue. If a lifeguard has some type of mental health issue, some type of PTSD from an on-the-job response, as a first responder, a recognized first responder, now they have coverage.
New Jersey and Hawaii already ahead of the curve. Both states officially recognizing lifeguards as first responders in the last few months. The lifeguards of Jones Beach risking it all for a change.
We love our jobs and we love what we do. We love protecting the public. Lifeguards around the United States and around the world have one goal in mind: to make sure that everyone that visits the beach comes home from the beach.
A push for recognition from coast to coast.
Our thanks to Telemundo's Gabriela Dayan. The lifeguard lobbying group says that getting mental health benefits is the biggest priority, especially because workers are often experiencing traumatic situations in the line of duty. Well, many families are trying to squeeze in one last trip to the beach before school starts up. The season is going out with less of a bang and more of a sting. It's because big swarms of jellyfish are now turning up along some popular destinations along the East Coast. NBC News correspondent Emily Ikeda joins us now from the Jersey Shore with a closer look at this. Emily, good morning.
Hey, Joe, good morning to you. While jellyfish along the East Coast are not uncommon this time of year, fortunately, you can see I've got one of the harmless ones in my hands here. It's the stinging species, and the sheer number of them that have beachgoers and beach patrol taking note, with some of the water so saturated that some visitors on some shorelines are going no more than ankle deep.
I have never seen anything like this in my entire life.
At some of the most popular East Coast beaches, it's a stinging send-off to summer as big blooms of jellyfish are cropping up, crowding the water and shorelines.
That water's just loaded with jellyfish, and they're washing up on the shore the whole way down the beach.
These swarms, not uncommon along the mid-Atlantic coastline, but experts say a hotter season coupled with drought have created the perfect conditions for jellyfish to flourish in the Chesapeake Bay before the currents pull them out to popular spots like Ocean City, Maryland, and the beaches of Delaware. Douglas Fessler spotted them when he visited Ocean City earlier this month.
I got stings all over my ankles now.
I got lit up when I was out there.
And by the end of the weekend, he says, they went from every 10 feet to every 3 feet.
I actually got into a smack of jellyfish, and they lit me up like a Christmas tree.
If you do get stung, experts say allergic reactions are extremely rare. For most, the discomfort should start to improve within 30 minutes. And they say to avoid this so-called solution made popular in the show Friends. Damn all the jellyfish!
You've got to do something. Well, there's really only one thing you can do.
What? What is it?
You're going to have to pee on it.
What? On the West Coast, warmer Pacific waters are leading to a spike in stingray stings. San Diego lifeguards treating more than 1,200 people this year, nearly as many as all of last year.
I don't go in the water if you can't see the bottom, so if it's really murky, I'm not going in.
Researchers have also found rising ocean temperatures are changing shark behavior on both coasts. Experts say when it comes to any of these sea creatures, it's important to remember when you go in the ocean, you're in their domain.
They're supposed to be there. They're natural. They're parts of the ecosystem.
All right, so if you are heading to a jellyfish-filled shoreline, maybe consider adding a pair of tweezers to your beach bag. So if you're stung, you can use them to pick off any remaining tentacles. Also, don't be afraid to ask asked the lifeguard about sting relief wipes. And if you're seeing some lingering pain, consider hydrocortisone cream or a hot compress. You know, Joe, what I like to say is a trip to the ice cream man is the best solution here.
I like that. That I like. Those other things were not on my list at all, so I'm going to have to keep that in mind when I'm packing up for the beach. All right, Emily.
Tweezers.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Coming up, tipped off for many Americans. A tipping culture that some say has become omnipresent may now be at a tipping point, and workers might be the ones suffering. We got more on the culture shift that's got some consumers tapping no tip next. We are back with a look at what has been dubbed tipping fatigue as coffee shops, restaurants, even stores present screen prompts for tips at checkout. Many people are feeling pressure to add a tip to their purchases. NBC News chief business correspondent and host of Current here on NBC News Now, Christine Romans, looked into why people are tipping less when it's okay to click no tip, which I think some people feel guilty about. But
I know.
They don't know what they're supposed to do.
You kind of hide. You're like,
right. Didn't
no
even
tip.
see this. Yeah.
Look, with rising prices, budgets just aren't going as far as they used to, and a wide range of businesses are encouraging people to tip. So to avoid tipping fatigue, we spoke with the experts about how to decide when to tip or skip. While Americans love to reward good service, many are having second thoughts about the barrage of tip requests on practically everything. It seems that tipping screen pops up in just about every sale.
Are we tipping every single time that we go to a coffee shop?
I have become so good at pressing that no tip button.
I'm paying $50 for 2 drinks at a Phillies game. I'm not tipping you.
Shoppers are being nudged to tip when ordering a sandwich, a single cup of coffee, even for things like tires.
I went to go get new tires on my truck, and they literally had the screen turn around and had the audacity to say, "Would you like to tip?" And I said, no.
So is tipping out of control?
A little bit, yeah.
Although it's a custom that isn't going anywhere, people are pulling back on where, when, and how much to tip. Restaurant technology platform Pop Menu says 40% of consumers are tipping less this year than last year because of tipping fatigue, tighter budgets, and rising prices, with 3.4% inflation over the past year.
If you go to an establishment and every other month the price for that same item or service goes up, you start to get fatigued there, and you have to make up for that. You can't just eat that all yourself.
There is also the anxious, somewhat guilty feeling as you stare at the large tip screen that appears before the required customer signature.
Do you feel like you're seeing like the tip screen more than you used to?
Yeah, definitely within the last 2 years, I'm seeing a lot more like iPad, would you like to tip?
As people cut back on tips, some consider the cost of the item.
When do you say no?
When it's about like less than $20.
For others, it's about the service.
If it's somebody working in like a sandwich shop and they make me a nice sandwich, then I might lay them a tip.
Yeah.
But if I'm just buying something like from a corner store, absolutely not.
It's not always comfortable to hit no tip, especially when an employee is watching and waiting for the sale to be completed.
Does it make you feel guilty not to give the tip?
Sometimes, yeah.
Pop Menu says more than 56% of people don't typically tip at fast food spots, and 44% don't tip for fast casual. But most are tipping at sit-down restaurants, carry-out counters, and coffee shops.
I think about the people that rely on tips as a primary source of income, but also the more personalized I get. For example, your hairstylist or people that you see on a more frequent basis, so you start to develop a more personal relationship. To me, that is where I put the extra dollars.
So, Christine, I guess the big question then is, how much should we be tipping in the situations where we are tipping?
Right. You have to decide, wait, is this the situation where I should be tipping and how much? So Pop Menu says 15 to 20% is still the standard. And focus on the companies and the experiences that rely on tips, the hairstylist, the restaurant waitress. Then there are all these other places where suddenly you've been asked to tip when you usually weren't tipping before. So you can consider tipping less there or even skipping. Especially if the service is really bad, not tipping can actually clue the business in that they need to discuss so that you're not going to want to tip. So you don't have to feel locked in by whatever's been presented to you on the iPad. And I think the old school tip jar is even more important now because, you know, an employee actually put that together. It's not just a standard part of the software. right? If somebody put that there and you're hoping that the people there in the business are going to share it.
Well, you feel like someone's got to get that cash, whereas on top of all the other questions you have when you're pushing the iPad, you're like, who's this going to? How do I know it's getting to them?
And you know what? Quite a few people told us, wait a minute, the company replaced a human by putting an iPad there. So wait, I'm now tipping because you don't have somebody here who I'm talking to? So that's another interesting wrinkle in the debate to skip or to tip.
I don't think the iPad's getting the tip last
No,
checked, so.
it's not.
All right, Christine, thanks so much. Appreciate it. It has become one of the biggest debates in Hollywood. What does artificial intelligence mean for the TV and film industries, especially in Los Angeles, which has lost thousands of production jobs in recent years? Reporter Keenan Willard from our LA station visited an AI film studio to try and find out for himself.
Based in Silver Lake, Asteria says they're an artist-led generative AI film and animation studio powered by the first clean and ethical AI model. It's a unique mission statement in an industry grappling with what artificial intelligence means for Hollywood.
AI has become one of the biggest topics in Hollywood, particularly because the creatives have this fear, and it may be not totally unfounded at all, that AI could replace their likeness, their voice, could take jobs from writers, actors.
Back in 2023, the movie and TV industry was shut down for 4 months as multiple unions went on strike. At the heart of the issue, calls to regulate the use of artificial intelligence amid fears that AI-generated actors, not humans, would appear on screen, and scripts would start coming from AI models, not writers.
Is that what you all are doing here?
We don't do, I think, the things like AI actors and those things. In fact, I think a lot of that is largely overblown.
Asteria says they're using generative AI differently. They say it's a tool that can help their creative team with video effects and animation.
You use the model to basically do things like in animation, in-betweening, filling out crowds, extending shots, cleaning up shots, removing things out of it.
Musser says this is a moment where the industry in LA needs to be willing to adapt. Federal data shows more than 40,000 production jobs have left Los Angeles since 2022. Experts saying that's because it's significantly cheaper to shoot and edit in other states or overseas.
I think that anybody who says, well, AI doesn't belong in Hollywood, I would ask them to say, well, you know, is Hollywood working right now? Like, is it working for those people? Like, is it, if the industry was in a perfect spot, I would say, sure, let's leave it alone. But it's not.
Musser says by using AI, smaller teams can finish jobs more quickly, which could drive down the cost of production and hopefully bring projects back to Hollywood.
We have to do something to try to bring jobs back here, and it's really important that Los Angeles becomes the place that is always the center of the entertainment industry, including being the center of whatever the technology comes next.
Our thanks to Keenan Willard for that reporting. The studio has also said it has had to change models frequently as the technology keeps getting better. In Illinois, after weeks of extreme relentless weather that fueled hundreds of tornadoes and caused widespread damage, the state's governor is declaring a statewide emergency. It is these type of dangerous weather events that have inspired a new groundbreaking research project to help officials better understand and prepare and keep people safe. Researchers at NOAA and the University of Oklahoma are now using drones to collect temperature, humidity, and wind data in real time. They're trying to determine if drones can help improve forecasts and deliver more accurate weather warnings. So NBC News meteorologist Angie Lassman went to see how the drones work. She joins us now with more on this. This is fascinating, Angie.
Really fascinating stuff. Good morning, Joe. In an era when drones are being used for just about everything from deliveries to warfare, the science community is finding a new way to harness these eyes in the sky. And the need has never been greater. Climate change is accelerating at a rapid pace, and more and better weather data is crucial to forecasting for the future and even today.
The summer of extremes, twisters, heat, wildfires, and floods. Nearly every part of our nation hit by a natural disaster the past few months. In the Midwest, tornadoes dominating the headlines. More than 400 reported in the months of April and June alone.
We have had a very active tornado season, but it's really been active in the Midwest. 476 tornadoes reported, 120% of the 17-year average.
Human-caused climate change is driving these rapidly changing weather patterns, and science is trying to keep up. Now a groundbreaking research project giving forecasters a new way to see what's happening just above our heads. The Storm Prediction Center, National Severe Storms Laboratory, and the University of Oklahoma partnering up to devise a way to fill the gap in gathering weather data. Drones, collecting data on air pressure, temperature, relative humidity, wind speed, and direction. So how does it all work? I went into the field with the top weather experts in the U.S. and arguably the world to see what's up. Literally. It takes a team of 3 researchers, today all from the National Severe Storms Lab here in Norman, Oklahoma. We have the pilot, Tony Segales Espinoza, the observer, Elizabeth Tyrone. She's making sure the airspace is clear. And Elizabeth Smith. She'll be monitoring data in real time to send back to forecast offices.
Flight mode's good to go.
Good to
you
go.
get a thumbs up? Yep. If everybody's good to go, I'm going to go ahead and arm and take off.
All right, I'm ready.
Yeah. All with the click of a button. All with the click of a button, yeah. So you'll see it start to spool up here in a second. Take off. Tony will be monitoring kind of its behavior now. He'll turn on the strobe lights as it's headed up, so that's anti-collision lights. Okay.
We have to follow the regulations from the FAA, so we're flying regional line of sight, so I have to keep an eye on it.
And it's going straight up and down, and there's a reason for that. What's the reason? Yeah, so, we launch weather balloons twice a day. We have lots of different sensors. A few thousand feet above our head in the surface, we don't get information any more than that twice a day to launch.
So instead of waiting 12 hours for the next weather balloon, scientists can fly these drones again and again as conditions change.
So this is a way for us to kind of be able to see the profile of what's happening above our heads, which is where a lot of this weather happens, right? Yeah, and it's helpful for forecasting, obviously. Yes, we will oftentimes kind of increase our cadence when a storm approaches us as we're getting closer and closer to get more information more rapidly in that more dynamic environment. Right.
Tyler Bell is an assistant professor in the schools of meteorology and aviation at the University of Oklahoma.
Weather balloons tend to be the gold standard for measuring the atmosphere. We don't really want to replace them. I want to be clear about that. We're really most interested in the lowest part of the atmosphere where things are changing the most often. We tend to miss out on a lot of interesting things that happen in between, radar sites and ballooning sites.
Filling those data gaps means a more precise forecast, better pinpointing where dangerous weather will strike and where it won't. It's not just tornadoes that fall under the severe weather profile. Winter weather, in particular, forecasting that wintry mix.
Notice the snow stretching from Kansas City down to Hot Springs. We've got that freezing rain occurring here across parts of the deeper south, and then a bit of that rain mixing in as well.
A combination of rain, freezing rain, sleet, and snow will benefit from the new drone data. And that can mean the difference between a rainy commute and a dangerous ice storm.
It's a pretty big forecast challenge on these days where it's not clear if it's going to be rain, freezing rain, sleet, snow, and where those changeovers are going to happen. Data like this, collecting it really rapidly and close to the surface, we can really find where that freezing layer is, and help us kind of refine that prediction of saying this area is more likely to switch over to freezing rain. Take your precautions as you need to, things like this.
And we could see the temperature changing just a degree or two, and we could correlate that directly with what kind of precipitation we were seeing on the ground. If we can fill in the gaps between those weather balloons, then we can effectively help improve weather forecasts and hopefully save lives and property.
And this drone program, Joe, it goes beyond just taking atmospheric measurements. The researcher Lizzie Tyrone, who you met in the piece, she heads up a program that basically uses specialized drones to assess tornado damage in places that maybe you can't get to with cars. And they're starting to use it for fire weather, looking at fire-ravaged areas and fire behavior, which, of course, we know is really important across much of the West.
So many different types of extreme weather that we're trying to keep an eye on, and it can be so dangerous in the moment to measure it.
Exactly.
So it seems like a big help. All right.
Technology's help.
Thanks for that report. Appreciate it.
We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.